Okay, so welcome everybody. In this spring, we have been working with different elements of nature uh, and bringing them into our bodies and expressing them and sort of just using them as inspiration as we move through. So we're going to continue with that this evening, um, which is kind of a funny thing for me personally to be doing because I pretty much have a very brown thumb. I have tried to plant things out of doors and never been successful. I have grown, tried to grow things in of doors, not been very successful. But then a few years ago, we did some home renovation work, and we have this corner in our living room where it just doesn't there's no reason to put any furniture there. It doesn't make sense to have anything there. So our people who were helping us decorate were like, well, just fill it with plants. And I was like, it's not necessarily the best idea because I'll probably just kill them all, but we can try it. And it's been great because I actually have a few plants that are surviving and they look like they're thriving. Turns out you just have to find the right balance of water. You have to give them enough water in the soil, but not too much. And so far they're doing okay. Like, these are not very finicky plants. I at least told them that we had to go with the easiest ones. But so for today, we're going to talk about the two elements that we've been with the last few weeks, which is earth. So we can think of that like the plant soil, and then water. And we need for the healthy plant to grow, it needs that. It needs the soil to be rooted in, but it also, of course, needs the water, but it needs it in the right balance. So when we find the right balance, we're sweet. And so putting soil or earth and water together, we get mud. And you wouldn't think you would celebrate mud, but mud is actually really great. It is healing. Like, it has all these minerals in it, and what was it saying? Like, it can be an exfoliant. It can help to like clear the skin. All these like healing properties of mud. And it's also supportive. It can nourish plants. It can nourish, like a lotus grows in the mud. It's very sticky, but it's not immovable. And so when we take this idea of mud and bring it into the yoga practice, it's about being able to be stable in poses, but also fluid in some way, have that watery flow, but also be stable and strong. So finding the balance of the two and not having too much, right? So if you're in one pose and your body tends to be really, really stable, right? You could say tight might be another word to say that, to introduce a little more of the watery, flowy quality. If you tend to be kind of open or flowing, watery, it's hard to stand in a pose, then you introduce more of the stability. And so it can be a nice, like when we think about having a mud quality in the practice, it really is about finding the exact right balance for you that nurtures your body, your mind, your heart in exactly the right way, giving you exactly what you need and finding a sense of balance. When we can do that, we start to flourish, right? When we have enough stability in our lives and enough flow in our lives, it can feel like, oh, I'm really flourishing now. I'm not doing things too slow. I'm not doing things too fast. I'm in exactly the sweet spot. And we want the yoga to support our bodies to flourish, to feel good, even if we have to have a hip replacement or something like that to be able to recover. And of course, we want our lives to feel like we flourish as well. And it can start with bringing this balance of steadiness and flow, uh, earth and water, putting them together, making little mud, and feeling supported and nourished by that. So we'll play with that idea today. You can start by taking a good seat. Just want to sit up tall, and if you can sit cross-legged, that's helpful, but if not, don't worry about it. And you just bring your spine up vertical. So remember last week we turned the inner thighs in. That was the flowing quality, and that helped to move the low back in. So we want that, continue to move the low back in so there's like a ripple up your spine. Let your hands rest on your thighs. And then close your eyes and turn inside. When you breathe in, breathe all the way down to your sitting bones. Feel them resting stably on the earth. And then rise up through your spine, not trying to make it completely straight, but allowing for the natural curve of the spine, the ripple of the spine. Soften your skin a bit more and feel the movement of your breath. When you're stable in your support, in your foundation, it's easier for your breath to flow. And then just come into awareness of how your hips feel tonight. Do they feel really open and like it's hard to sit up? Or do they feel really tight? If they're tight, you'll be adding more flow. If they're open, you'll be adding more stability. We're trying to find balance. And then same thing, look into your own heart space. Just acknowledge where you're starting from today. And then join your palms. One hand flow, one hand stability. Bring them up and join them in front of your heart, equal pressure. And we'll chant 3 rounds of Om. Welcome your in-breath. Om. 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 Gently bow your head in and release your hands down onto your thighs. Lift your head back up and open your eyes. Great. We're going to start standing this evening, and if you have a yoga block, get your yoga block. If not, you can use a rolled up towel or a couch cushion for this. It should be fine. But come standing where you can reach your arms out to the sides pretty easily. Great. You're going to take your block with the short end facing the front and the big wide end facing the ceiling and place it between your calves. So we're going to put the earthy part, or you can use a couch cushion or a pillow. Yeah. We're going to put the earth quality into the legs, into the shins in particular. So we want that stability to be in the shins. So make sure that your block's all the way down at your shins and your calves. And you can bring your hands onto your hips and just a little bend of your knees. Look down and point your feet straight forward. Now, squeeze your shins in towards the block. So as if they were on the outside, they squeeze in. And you'll feel how that creates some stability up through the legs. So it stabilizes the shins so that they're not wildly going anywhere, stabilizes the knees so they're not turning, and it makes the thighs strong. That's the earthy quality. There's the stability, shins in. So when I say shins in, this is what we're talking about. Now bend your knees a little bit, but keep your shins in. Take your hands, cross at the wrists. Yeah. Turn your hands towards the floor. And with your knees bent, you're going to take your hands on your inner thighs and roll your inner thighs towards the back of the room. So the thighs roll in towards the back of the room. Yep. Good. And at the same time, the reason they're crossed is so that you can push out with the hands. That's thighs wide or thighs out. And that's the flowing quality of the water. Remember last week, we turned the thighs to get this kind of flow. So we want to have both. It's kind of wild. The shins hug in, but the thighs go out. Shins in, thighs out, and there's the balance for the legs. Now slowly straighten your legs. You can release your hands and try to do it now without your hands. So squeeze your shins into the block and then roll your thighs towards each other, but at the top, spread them out. So the shins go in, but the tops of the thighs go out. And when we find the balance point of the shins in and the thighs out, it lines up your legs, which can create a lot of Freedom for your hips. You can make your hips feel great because they're not misaligned. Ankles feel better, knees feel better. So that's what we'll aim for through practice tonight. Take your arms by your sides now. Inhale and reach out and up. And exhale, bring the arms back down. Again, inhale and lift up, let the breath flow, but keep the lower body steady. Exhale, arms back down. Inhale, get a little bigger, more expanded. Stay sort of expanded as your arms reach back out and down towards the mat. And this time, reach up and pause. And take hold of your left wrist with your right hand and arc over towards the right. Now see if you can squeeze your shins into the block so that stabilizes you at the bottom part of your body. And even if possible, spread the tops of the thighs wide. And that can be hard to feel. Just see if it makes any sense to you while you're in this position. Inhale up in the middle and switch clasp of the hand. So clasp the right wrist and arc over to the left. Same idea, we make the mud in the legs. So the legs squeeze the block and widen at the top of the thighs, even as you reach up and over with the torso. Inhale, come up, and exhale, bring your arms back down by your sides. Good, so now take your block away. You can place it near the top of your mat if you use it for your sun salutation. And come on up to the top of the mat. So that's our work tonight, 2 different pieces at the same time. The shins in, the thighs wide. It's a little bit tricky, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so bring your feet parallel at the top of the mat now, and inhale, reach up to the sky, and exhale, fold over into standing forward bend. When you get there, bend your knees a little bit. With your knees bent, track them straight ahead, almost like you're standing in sticky mud, and the knees couldn't possibly go wide or fall into each other because they're being held by that muddiness. Now take your hand to the outside of your calf. So each hand goes on the outside of your calf. Yes, not on your knee, because that can actually push your knee out of alignment. And then push your hands, use your hands, push your shins in. You'll notice your knees start to collapse in. So now press your thighs right at the top out. Shins go in, thighs go out, and you might start to feel, some opening right around the buttocks, the outer hips, the legs. You can either keep your knees bent and your hands here, or slowly straighten your legs a little bit or a lot, keeping your shins in and your thighs wide. Good. Now bring your fingertips to the mat and do straighten your legs if you haven't. Inhale and reach your heart halfway forward. Exhale, step your left leg back, come into a lunge. Deep breath in, deep breath out. So your right foot is forward. Take your right hand on the outer edge of your right shin, just like we just did a moment ago. Push your right shin in towards the middle, but resist that by widening at the top of your right thigh. So it's like your right hip tries to go right, but it can't because your right shin is going into the middle. I know it's like 2 things at once. What happens is that creates some balance. We want to find the balance in the leg. Good. Bring your left knee down, bring your right hand down, and then bring your right knee back to meet your left. Bring your forearms down. Let's step back into our forearm plank. So with your hands interlaced, step your legs back. And of course, you can do this with your knees down or your knees up. Hug your shins in a little bit to make you feel a little more stable in this pose. When the legs are activated, it's a little easier on the core. And then lower your knees and slowly bring your torso all the way down. Make your shins really strong back behind you, and even click your pinky toes down. Reach your hands back behind your back. Interlace your fingers. Inhale, slowly lift up into Shalabhasana. And just take a breath or 2, and then exhale, lower back down. We'll do that 2 more times. So finding the flow of the water, shoulders up, inhale, lift the heart, hold for a breath. Breath flows in and out, and then exhale and lower back down. One more time, shoulders up, heart lifts. Keep the legs steady as the heart flows. And then exhale and lower back down. Bring your hands underneath of your shoulders and go back to downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, rise up on your tiptoes and bend your knees. So the heels are lifted, the knees are bent. And now squeeze the shins in. They're not going to move, but it just activates your leg. And at the very tops of the thighs, spin the tops of the thighs back and wide so that your buttocks spin up more. Same kind of feeling we had last week in the leg. Then slowly reach your heels back and down for the mat as you straighten your legs. Look forward between your hands. Step your left leg all the way forward up into lunge. Come up on your fingertips. Take a deep breath in and out. And now the same thing, keeping your back leg strong. Take your left hand to your outer left shin. Press your left shin in. So just holding the left shin, pushing it in, but to keep the knee from going with, take the left outer thigh out wide. So the left hip, the left thigh goes wide. If you're feeling really stable, you can also press your right hip wide. And find the balance of the two. Then bring your left hand back down, push off your back foot and step forward into standing forward. Bend with your feet parallel, like you're standing down into squishy mud. It's holding you steady and stable, but you can flow. So flow your heart halfway forward. And exhale, bow over the legs. Take your arms wide, sweep them up to the sky, come up, and then join your palms together in front of your heart space. Release your hands by your sides. Let's go again. Inhale, lift up. Exhale and fold over. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale your right leg back into a lunge. Left knee bends. Now, do shin in and thigh wide without your hand. So it's just the idea that the shin stays in, the thigh goes wide. So your knee stays pointing straight ahead. Then bring your hands up to your front thigh. Yeah. Good. You can always put your back knee down if you need it for support. Now, keeping the legs really stable, slowly lift your torso up and then take both arms up. So again, you want to have this stickiness in the legs like they're stuck in mud that's really supportive and nourishing, the way that a plant roots down into mud. So they're not wavering, they're not going anywhere. But then your spine can rise up. Reach all the way up through your fingertips. Exhale, bring your hands to your front thigh and lean forward. And then bring your hands down, back knee down. Step your right knee back to meet your left. Bring your forearms down and step back again into forearm plank. Charge your body with power by hugging your legs to the middle. Steady your breath, but let it flow so the breath is not held. And then lowering both knees, uncurl your toes, bring your belly down. Come all the way down. We'll take cobra pose in the same way we just did the last one. So hands in line with the middle of your chest. Press your feet down, make them stable. And then flow through your back bend. Shoulders up, inhale, lift your heart, come up, big breath in and out. And then exhale and lower back down. 2 more just like that. So you inhale, float up, breath in and out, and then exhale and lower. And we'll do it one more time. So keep the legs really stable. Inhale, lift. Heart rises up. Take your shoulders and elbows back. Excellent. Exhale and lower down. Put your hands under your shoulders and go back to downward facing dog. Again, that can be hands and knees back, or just lift yourself and go back. Let's again inhale up on tiptoes, bend your knees, squeeze your shins steady. To help with that, imagine you're going to pull your pinky toe back towards your outer heel, and that helps wake up your shins. Keeping that, take the tops of the thighs wider. Good, and then reach the legs straight, root your heels for the mat. Look forward between your hands, step your right foot all the way up between your hands. Pause. Hug your right shin in, take your right thigh wide, and bring your hands up to your front thigh. You take a deep breath in. And as if the legs were steady, stuck in sticky mud, inhale, lift up your torso even more, and then take your arms up. If it's too much to have the arms up, you can put your hands on your hips. It'll help you stay more stable. Yeah, but if you're really stable, you're feeling tight, imagine pushing into the legs and letting some aliveness flow through your body. Like you're soaking in nutrients from the mud and then expanding yourself. Good. Bring your hands back to your front thigh and then down to the mat and step your back foot forward. Standing forward bend. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, flow down. Stabilize your legs as you root them into the earth. Sweep the arms wide and flow up with your breath. And exhale, hands meet in the middle at your heart. And release your arms by your sides and take a wide stance. We don't need a block or anything. Yeah, we do need a block. So if you have a block, you can put your block in the middle, right in front, or you can even put 2 blocks right in front if you prefer. Excellent. Then take a nice wide stance. So Prasarita Padottanasana, it's this wide-legged forward fold. When you get your feet out wide, start by making sure they're parallel. And that's actually going to help you keep the legs in balance, which is what we're looking for. Then bring your hands on your hips. Take a deep breath in. And with the shins squeezing in to keep you stable, bow forward until your spine is about parallel to the floor. And you can bring your hands on the blocks or on a cushion or on the floor if you can. Yeah, good. And then just bring your hands down. Now, in this position for a moment, bend your knees. And when you do, your knees should point straight ahead and move forward. They shouldn't sort of just knock into each other when you bend. Now, create the earthy steadiness in the shins. So imagine that your shins are trying to sweep towards each other. Yeah, feel how that creates a lot of power in your leg. At the same time, send some weight back into your hips. So the shins are moving forward, hugging in. Take the tops of the thighs back, and you can even send your hips back a little. Now imagine that your thighs could roll in towards the middle and back towards the back of the room. It's a lot going on, but it starts to align the leg muscles. So you can either stay right here and just work on really widening at the tops of the thighs as you keep the shins strong, or slowly bow forward more and then stretch the legs, still keeping the shins hugging in, still widening at the tops of the thighs. Your head starts to hang down a little bit lower, down towards the mat. Maybe it even touches the floor or touches a block on the floor. We find this balancing point where there's stability, steadiness, and flow. The hips are opening, not just getting locked in place. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. Bring your hands back up onto your blocks if you took them off. And then get really stable. Lift your low belly even. Hands to the hips and inhale to come up. Nice work. Turn your right leg out from the hip. You can keep your blocks where they are. I'm just moving mine so it's easier for you to see me. So right leg turns out from the hip. Bring your hands onto your hips. And left leg is parallel. Take a deep breath in and then bend your right knee. And we've been doing a lot of work on where the knee is pointing. So do take a check. See that the knee is pointing where it's meant to be. So it's not falling in towards your big toe. That's too much shins in. Hug the shins, make them steady, and then even squeeze at the hips a little bit. Lift your low belly, take your arms up parallel to the floor, and we're in Warrior Two. Good. So in Warrior Two, you're aiming for your front knee to start to come out to a 90-degree angle, right? So it's a deep bend to the knee. And as you can feel, it's a hip opener. You're squeezing the right outer glute. And then take your right forearm to your right thigh, and we'll flow a little bit. Left arm up and over the ear, and then go back to Warrior Two. So you come right back up, only staying for a second. We're gonna do that one more time. Point your knee out. Yep. Right forearm, right thigh, reach up and over with the left. Even turn and look up. And then come back to the center, back to Warrior Two, and stretch your front leg straight. Bring your hands to your hips. Nice work. Turn your right toes to parallel. Turn your left toes all the way out. Deep breath. The breath is to help you just open to what's right here before you. And then squeezing the legs, bend your left knee. And hug the left shin in, and that can help the knee stay pointing straight ahead. So the knee doesn't fall in, stays pointing straight ahead. Good. Hover your arms up. Notice if your shoulders have gone beyond your hips, and bring them back over your hips. Really nice, everybody. Good. Keeping your legs steady. Look out over your fingertips. Feel the legs like nourishment for your spine. They're holding you so that you can move the spine with ease. So now bring your left forearm to your left thigh. Take your right arm up and over your ear. Big stretch over. And then come back up to Warrior Two. And we'll do it one more time. Keep pointing your knee out. Left forearm, left thigh. Right arm up and over the ear. There we go. Good. And back to Warrior Two. And then straighten your front leg, hands to your hips, turn your left leg parallel. Step your feet back together. Good work. So you can come back to the top of your mat. Could be useful to have a block near the top of your mat if you want it. You don't know if you want it yet because you don't know what you're doing, but you could have it there as a possibility. And then once you get there, stand in Tadasana. Excuse me. Inhale and reach up. And with the legs stable, flow with the torso, bow over. And then reach your heart forward. Inhale. Exhale and take your left leg back into a lunge. Bring your left knee down onto the mat. Now, this is a good time to have your block if you start to feel strain. You can always put your left hand on the block. Or the left hand can stay on the floor. You'll see how it goes. Start with your right hand on your right shin, as we did earlier, and press the right shin in. So not the thigh, but the shin. There you go. Press the right shin in and widen at the tops of the thighs. Now spin your shoulders towards the right, and then slowly open up the right arm to the sky. So if this feels really tight, you just add a little more stability by putting your left hand on the block. If you feel like, oh, I've got this, I have some freedom, then you can take the left hand on the floor. And then last option, if you want, lift the right knee up. So you have this nice twisted flowing spine with the stable legs. Squeeze the shins to the middle, thighs wide. Exhale, bring your right hand back down. If you lifted your back knee, bring it back down. And well, actually, you can step the back foot forward into standing forward bend. Inhale, lift your heart towards the front. Exhale, step your right leg back to lunge. Lower the back knee. Right hand can be on the block or on the floor. Take your left hand to your outer left shin and push your left shin in as you take the thighs wide. So both shins hug in and the thighs go wide. And then take your shoulders back, turn your ribs towards the left, and then take the left arm up so you're in a twisted lunge position. Excellent. Take your shoulders back as best you can. You can either stay here or lift the back thigh up. You can feel how stable it is with the hand on the floor, the foot on the floor, legs holding steady, but there can be some flow as you turn the torso. We want that balance of stability and flow. We're not just rigidly stuck in place. So our minds can open too. Exhale, bring your hand back down, lower your back knee, and let's step back to downward facing dog again. So you can lift the back knee, drag the front foot way back, go to downward facing dog. This time, keep the legs straight. Arms are steady. Squeeze the shins towards the middle, even though they're not moving, they're squeezing. And take the tops of the thighs back and wide. You may feel that as stretching the legs in a different way in your downward facing dog. Now bend both knees, bring them all the way down to the mat, and exhale, shift back into child's pose. So the toes curl, flip to the floor. You can set your hips on your heels, knees can be wide. And if child's pose is not comfortable, just sit in a way that does feel comfortable to your body. Allow the breath to flow as you're supported by the stable earth beneath you. Gently walk your hands back towards your body. Lift your torso up. And we're going to come to a couple of seated poses. So it's useful if you have a blanket or a block to sit on or couch cushion, and also your strap if you have one. Okay. Great. So we're going to start by sitting up on the block or blanket. And you're going to bring the soles of your feet together for Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose, also called cobbler's pose. So this is a pose where shins in, you can think of the legs like a clam, and shins in would be shins kind of coming up towards the ceiling. It's kind of funky. And thighs wide is the thighs moving towards the floor. We're going to help that. You can take your hand on your right thigh, roll the right inner thigh down, and take the outer thigh back and wide. And then before you do the other side, just feel the difference. So for me, I can feel more earth when I do that. This side is more stabilized, having done that bit of flow. So then switch sides, do the left side. The inner thigh goes down, the underside comes out to the back. Yeah, and now there's maybe more earth on both sides, hopefully some more balance. Now, put your hands on your inner, let's do the inner calf, and just squeeze your calves up into your hands. So I'm actively pushing down with the hands and having the shins squeeze into that. So that shin's in actively. It's like the block was there earlier, where your legs are now like a bear claw trap. And then at the same time, see if you can use your muscles to push the thighs sort of down and out. And that, if that makes sense to your body, if not, just squeeze in, that's fine too. Good. Lift up in your spine so you're really, really tall. And then release the squeezing, all the action of the legs. It can still be there, but not quite so extreme. Hands on the ankles, tip your torso forward. And that's relative. So if your hips are super tight, you're not going to have as much flow forward. If they're more open, you'll have more flow forward. That's okay. Either one, wherever you are, is okay. So you're going to just extend the torso out over your feet. Take a couple of breaths. Try pushing the feet into each other. See what happens. And with your next inhale, slowly come back up to seated. Take your hands under your legs, support the knees to come together now, and bring your legs out ahead of you. Good. Now you'll need your strap close by. Let's see, bend your left knee. Take your left knee off to the left with your left foot on the inside of the right leg. So it's like a tree pose, but you're sitting. Yep. Create a curve in your low back. So you sit up on the sit bones, curve in the low back, and then the strap goes around your right ball of the foot. So you might be able to reach it without bending the knee, but you can bend the knee to get it there. All right. So like you're sitting down in supportive mud, let your sitting bones go and settle. Then with your hand on the strap, move your low back in and up and sit up tall. So this is phase one of this pose, getting the spine, getting the low back to come in. And that's when the thighs go wide, that's what happens. And sitting up really, really tall. Yes. Peel your toes up towards the sky. Press your thighs towards the mat. But let your breath flow with ease. Good. Now take your left leg, just bend the knee up and put the left foot into the strap. Take the right foot out. And then bring your right leg back. Same thing, right foot as if it's like in tree pose. So the right foot's pressing into the left inner leg. Good. If that's too much, you can lower the right leg towards the left inner shin. And again, turn the left leg so it's pointing straight up and down. Peel the left toes up towards the sky. Let your sitting bones settle into your blanket or the floor. And then instead of, collapsing into this, lift and lengthen through your spine. Shoulders go back. You sit up really, really tall. Receive your breath. So it's not a super flashy pose, but it's teaching your body where to be and how to be in relationship with itself, with the leg and the spine. So that when we bow it forward in a moment, it's not out of whack. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing again. Take your right leg into the strap. Bring your left leg back. Left foot on the inner edge of the right knee, or the right leg, excuse me. And then go, low back has curve. Holding the strap with both hands now, sit up really tall. And if this feels like a challenge to sit up really tall, then this is where you stay. If you feel like, I'm not super challenged to sit up tall, then you can start to do like we just did a moment ago and bring your torso forward. As ever, when we bring the torso forward, we're aiming for a long torso rather than a rounded torso. So long, the low back stays in, and then you come out over the front leg. Maybe all the way down even, maybe just a little bit. So we're looking for what feels like balance to you, just enough. So take a deep breath in wherever you are, and a deep breath out. Make your spine a little bit longer. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And then inhale and rise back up. Good, take your left foot into the strap. Bring your right foot back. Last one of these, bring your leg to the your right foot to the inner left. We did so well. All right, thank you. All right, so sitting there, take a deep breath, sit up really tall. And then come forward if it's available to you, or just stay working on getting the height in your spine. Here we go. You may feel and notice the stability in your hamstrings or in your low back. And if so, if you're feeling really tight, right, send your breath there. The flow of the breath can help things to open. Good. Inhale and come on back up again. You can take the strap off of your leg, set it off to the side. So we're coming to, where do I want this over here? Oh, sorry. We're going to do pigeon pose tonight. And I'd love for you to have, yeah, let's try it this way. You can have a blanket or a cushion, or you can have a block to add a little stability to your pose if you want to try it this way. So I'll show you how this will look tonight. We'll be on hands and knees. I'll show you first. So you're going to bring one foot forward, walk it over towards the opposite side of the mat, and then the knee opens up, the back knee slides back. So if you feel particularly tight and like you can't really get anywhere in this pose, you can put a block under your sitting bone. I don't really recommend it forever, but for just, you know, if it's really, really challenging, it's not a bad way to work, to bring your sitting bones more level. Now, your back shin tends to fall out, so you want to hug the back shin in, and the front shin hugs in too, and then the thighs go wide. This is not working for me. So the thighs wide looks like this. So you're kind of here, and then you like widen. Then you can settle in a little more and bring your forearms down onto the mat, and this will be pigeon pose. We're just watching out that we don't, you know, kind of flow, collapse completely into the mud like it's quicksand. No, we want to keep the support in the legs, but then the flow comes into the hips as the tops of the thighs push out to the sides. Okay, so let's give it a try. To come out, I just bring my back knee forward and pull my hips back, and then the foot can come back. Okay, so yes, so if that's not a good idea for you today, you can always do eye of the needle pose, which is pigeon on your back. You lay down, cross an ankle over the knee, and that's a good stretch. Gets the same place without quite so much intensity. But for regular pigeon, here we go. We're going to step the right, come to hands and knees, excuse me. Step your right foot forward between your hands. And then walk your right foot a little over towards the left side and a little close into your body. So your knee might be forward of your foot. Then slowly lean a little bit right until your right knee comes down. So you want right knee down, left knee down. Good. Walk your left knee back just a little bit. Squeeze with the shins towards the middle. And then play with this. See if you can lift your hips up a little and take the tops of the thighs wide. If you're really thinking about it, the left inner thigh lifts up and goes over to the left. The back of the thigh lifts and goes over to the left. Good. Then slowly bring your forearms down onto the mat. You might find that you can sneak your left knee back a little bit more, or you might need to bring the left knee a little bit forward just to support you. Good. Take a couple deep breaths. So if you feel like it would be really easy to just kind of fall over in this pose, that means you have a little more watery quality in the body in the pose. So you need more stability, you need more earth. Squeeze the leg muscles around the bones. If you feel like there's no way you would ever fall over in this pose because your body feels like it's made of stone, then you need more watery quality. You've got a lot of earth, you need more watery. So push the tops of the thighs wider. These different alignment cues, they work in every body, but they work in different ways in every body. And so we apply them specifically to your body in a way that's going to bring balance. We're not going for extremes, we're going for balance. Balancing out all the other things you've done with your body since the last time you did yoga. Walk your hands slowly back.
Bring your left knee in a little bit and then send your hips back and take your right foot back. That looked like it was successful. All right, let's switch sides. So step your left foot forward towards like a lunge. And then your left foot walks over towards the right side. Open your left knee out to the left and let it come down to the mat. And if you need to, bring your right foot back towards your hips more. Then bring your right knee back a little bit. So you might be up and you sort of slide back. Good, squeeze the shins. Take the tops of the thighs back and wide and roll your right inner thigh over to the right. Then bring your forearms down. And here you are in pigeon pose, Ekapada Rajakapotasana in the Sanskrit on the second side. Allow your breath to be easy. You lose the breath, we start to contract the body in unconscious ways. So easy breath. And then squeeze the leg muscles around the bones. Again, if you're tighter in this pose, imagine pushing the tops of your thigh bones out the sides of your hips. If you feel like you can't hold yourself in this pose, really squeeze the muscles. And let yourself actually be nourished. Hip opening postures are deeply nourishing, deeply settling to the body. They also stimulate digestion, helping us to digest not only food, but everything else that's going on in our lives. Very good. Slowly walk your hands back. Keep the legs strong. Walk your right knee in just a little bit, and then send your hips back and bring the left leg back. You can come all the way over onto your back once you've done that. So hopefully, some opening on the hips or the legs in that pose. Really great pose for hip opening, leg opening. Getting things flowing in that lower body area. As you come down onto your back, we're preparing for Shavasana in a few minutes. First, take your arms out to the sides if you have space and bend your knees. And just allow the thigh bones to settle into the hip sockets. And let your breath settle down the body. And then hover your right knee in towards your chest. And you can hold on top of the right calf if it doesn't bother your knee. And let's just take the leg in a little bit of a circle, just a small circle. Remember, the thigh socket or the hip socket is a ball and socket joint. So it likes circles. And then go in the other direction. Increasing a little bit of the flow. And then come back to the middle, hug your knee towards your chest, and circle your ankle, right ankle. Maybe about 5 times in one direction, and then circle about 5 times in the other direction. It's like you take the fluidity that you had in the hips and just send it down the leg. Good, and then slowly bring your right leg back down to the mat. Hug your left knee in towards your chest. You can have the hands on the shin if it doesn't bother your knee. And first it's a hug in, and then gently circle the leg in the hip socket. And you might feel for places that are grippy, or where it feels like there's not a smooth glide of the leg as it moves around. No judgment, you're just noticing. Switch directions. That smooth glide comes as we find the sweet spot of balance with enough support where the muscles are strong, but where they have enough mobility too. They can still move. Good, bring the shin back to the center, hug it in, and then circle your ankle about 5 times in one direction. And about 5 times in the other direction. Finding mobility and movement. Good, bring your left knee back down, left foot back down. Bring your right knee in again, and again you can hold in front of the shin. Notice if you're really squeezing so much that your low back gets flat. Move your knee a little bit away from your chest so your low back can come up off the floor. Then stretch your right leg straight. Sorry, your left leg straight out along the mat. And right in the front of the hip, on the left side, take a deep breath. See if you can lengthen the space on the front of the left hip. Now take your hands behind your right thigh and stretch your right leg straight-ish. It may not go all the way straight, that's all right. Just straight-ish is fine. Peel your toes up toward your face. Notice how that creates a little more stability and sensation through your leg. Then bend your knee, take your hand onto your knee, and slowly open your right leg out to the right without moving your hips. So you don't turn the hips. At some point, your abdominal muscles will engage. So we're not going to go to the full straight leg position. We're just moving the leg in the hip socket. Bring it back up into the center. Now let's do it one more time. Just slowly open the right leg out to the right, knee is staying bent so that we can really work in the hip socket. Good, bring your right leg back up, and bring your right foot to the floor, bring your left foot to the floor, and then hug your left knee in. Low back off the mat, stretch your right leg down onto the floor. Again, feel for the space in the front of the right hip. So, right where the hip and thigh meet, really reach out for the mat and then stretch away from it, both with your leg and with your torso. So that area gets some space. It's a hard area to get into. You want to bring it some space. Take your hands behind your left thigh, stretch your left leg to straight or straight-ish. It may not go all the way straight in this position, it's totally fine. And then peel your toes up towards your face, your heel towards the ceiling. And when that happens, you'll feel more stretch in your hamstring possibly. Bend your left knee again. Take your left hand on top of your left knee, and then slowly open the left knee to the left without letting your hips turn. So it might go very far to the left, it might not go very far. I'm getting to the point where my left elbow rests on the floor and then my knee is just in my hand, and that's a nice way to work too, if that's available to your body. Good, bring your leg back up into the center. So again, we're just playing with range of motion and smoothness in the hip. And again, slowly open, left knee out to the left. Use your abdominals to keep your belly from going with you. My knee is just resting on my hand, my elbow is on the floor, but that might be too much, and that's fine. Inhale, bring your leg back up to the center, and then bend both knees. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Now you can do a little bit of a rock. Rock around on your spine if that feels good. If not, let it go. Or even let your knees come in and out towards your chest. Or with your hands on your knees, just gently roll slightly and let the legs move around. Then very gently come back to the center and release both legs out and onto the mat. Stretch yourself out and come to Shavasana. And for this Shavasana, you could imagine that you are maybe at like a natural spa or something where you can be wrapped up in a mud bath, painted with mud over your body and just soaking in the nourishment that comes with that. So allow your body to get really soft. If there's any ongoing earthiness, like stabilizing or contracting in your body, release that. You don't need it now. Let your body become even more like liquid. It melts down into the mat and spreads out along the floor. And then become even heavier as you start to release more deeply. And feel how you are completely stabilized here on the mat, and yet free to flow with your breath. Body at ease and at peace. Allow yourself to rest here very softly for your Shavasana. Gently begin to deepen your breath. Breathe in, and through your whole body, you exhale, just releasing anything else that's crept in, any more tension or distraction. And then bend your knees and roll yourself to your right side. Press your hands down into the mat and come back up to your seat and make it a very stable seat. Find the sitting bones beneath you as you sit up tall.
Close your eyes. And for a moment, scan your body. Notice places where there feels like there's some energy flowing. Notice places that may feel very stable. We want the practice to help to restore balance to the place where you have as much stability as you need, but the ability to flow, to be free, to explore, to be creative as well. And so now you can join your palms together in front of your heart. And we'll offer gratitude for this practice of yoga by chanting Om together to close. So welcome your in-breath. Namaste. Alrighty, thank you all for practicing with me today.